My neighbor ran a generator all night during a power outage. My newborn couldn't sleep. I asked them to turn it down. They said, "Should have bought a better house." So I bought something else, something small, quiet, and legal. And it sits pointed at their bedroom window. We live in a small rental in Dayton, Ohio. One story, old siding, tiny backyard. Not much, but it was ours for now. My wife and I moved in 4 months ago. She was 7 months pregnant then. We just wanted a safe place to bring the baby home. 2 weeks ago, a big storm came through and knocked the power out all over town. I wasn't worried at first. The fridge was fine. Lights out, sure, but we had flashlights and candles. My wife was already in bed with the baby, trying to rock him back to sleep. Jonah had been fussy since we brought him home. Newborn lungs. He cried a lot. Then I heard it. A deep, throaty noise, like a lawnmower stuck in place. I went out the back door and saw the Martins, our neighbors, had started up their generator. It was parked near the edge of their garage, maybe 10 feet from our bedroom wall. The noise didn't just hum, it rattled. And it didn't stop. I waited an hour. My son didn't fall asleep. He cried and nothing worked. My wife was near tears, and I was getting there too. I finally went over around midnight, walked to their side door, and knocked. Mrs. Martin opened it after a while, wrapped in a thin robe, annoyed. I kept my voice steady. "Hey, sorry to bother you. I know it's late. Our newborn's not doing great with the noise from your generator. Any chance you could maybe move it further back or, I don't know, point it the other way?" She didn't answer right away, just looked at me. Then she said, "Should have bought a better house." I blinked. "Sorry?" She shrugged. "It's legal. We have a right to use it. Maybe next time, spend more money on a quieter place." I stood there for a second, stunned. Then I nodded. "Okay." Went back inside. My wife asked if they'd turn it down. I told her no. She didn't say anything after that. I barely slept. Neither did Jonah. The next day, they still ran it. Power was out for 2 more nights. The noise didn't stop. I started thinking, if they were allowed to run something loud right outside my baby's window, what was I allowed to do? I didn't want to fight. I didn't want to make it worse.
But I also didn't forget what she said.
Should have bought a better house. So I started researching. Spent hours reading about white noise machines, outdoor speakers, legal volume limits, and how decibels work at a distance. I found something. A small, portable unit, runs on solar or battery, weatherproof, barely makes a sound to the human ear unless you're near it. But it can emit frequencies designed to interfere with light sleep. It was called the Whisper Tone LX, meant for camping. Legal, safe, quiet, but not to the person trying to sleep on the other side of the window. I ordered it. It arrived 4 days later. The power was back on by then. The Martins were quiet again. But I hadn't forgotten. That night, I took the Whisper Tone out to our backyard, pointed it at their bedroom window,
turned it on.
Nothing loud. No music. Just soft, shifting white noise. I had it on a low setting. From our porch, I couldn't even hear it. But over the next few nights, I saw signs. Their windows shut earlier than usual. Their blinds were always tilted. One night, Mr. Martin stood out in his yard at midnight, just looking toward our house. He didn't say anything. Neither did I. I'm stopping here for now. Let me know if you want the next section where I deepen the conflict, add new tension, or build toward confrontation. I can continue directly from this point.
A week went by.
No one said anything, but I knew they noticed. Every night at 11 p.m., I turned on the Whisper Tone. Every morning, I turned it off at 6. It wasn't even loud. That was the point. It was subtle, irritating in a way you can't explain. That kind of noise that makes your brain feel itchy, like you're missing a word or hearing something just out of range. I made sure to point it right at their bedroom window. I even tilted the stand slightly to line it up better. I tested the sound from different angles. Inside my son's room, you couldn't hear a thing. Outside, near their side of the yard, you could feel it, barely, like a hum under your skin. 3 nights in, Mrs. Martin started closing their window earlier. Then they put up thicker blinds. One night, I saw Mr. Martin walk out in his slippers, carrying a flashlight. He stood near our fence, looking around like he was trying to figure out what was off. I stood on our porch, rocking Jonah. Didn't say a word. He never looked directly at me, but I saw him pause and stare toward the direction of the speaker. He didn't say anything, just stood there for a while, then went back inside. I told myself it was just about protecting my son. But I'll be honest, it started to feel good. Not joyful, not fun.
Just satisfying.
Like I wasn't completely powerless. Like I hadn't just taken their insult and walked away. Then one night, they retaliated.
It was a Tuesday.
Around 1 a.m. After I'd already turned off the whisper tone. I was in the kitchen when I heard a strange buzzing sound. Not like a generator. More like a speaker glitching. I went to the back window and saw it. A Bluetooth speaker, set up on a small plastic table right on the edge of their yard, pointed at our house. It was blasting a high-pitched tone, like a test frequency, over and over. It wasn't loud enough to call the cops over, but it was constant. They were trying to do it back to us. My wife came out of the bedroom, holding Jonah, who had just fallen asleep again. She looked at me. "What is that?" I said, "They're copying us." She stood there for a second. "What do we do?" I stared out the window for a long time. The speaker just sat there humming its weird little tone. It made my teeth hurt. My son started to fuss again. I walked out into the backyard. Quiet.
Cold.
I didn't go near their property line. I didn't even touch the fence. But I stared at the speaker and made sure they saw me. I didn't touch it. I didn't say a word. I just went back inside. And then I adjusted the whisper tone to a new setting I hadn't tried before, one that pulses every 10 minutes, just enough to disrupt deep sleep. The next day, I didn't turn the whisper tone on,
just to see what they do.
At 11:07 p.m., the high-pitched speaker kicked in again on their side. Louder this time. It wasn't random anymore, it was deliberate. They were waiting. Watching. I waited 30 minutes. Then, I turned the whisper tone back on.
I didn't say anything. I didn't go outside.
But now it was a standoff. And I realized something. This wasn't about the noise anymore. It was about control. They wanted the last word. They wanted to remind me who had the bigger yard, the bigger house, the money for a generator. Who said should have bought a better house. But I wasn't backing down. Not now. By the end of the week, they added a second speaker. This one played chimes. Soft, fake windbell tones on a loop. They tried to make it sound peaceful. But when it runs on a loop for hours, it doesn't feel peaceful. It feels like a slow drip of water on your forehead. I kept recording it. Every night, every loop, every time-stamped moment. I made a little folder on my laptop, labeled Nuisance Audio. Just in case. One afternoon, Mr. Martin was in his driveway working on something. I walked out to check the mail. I didn't look at him, but I could feel his eyes on me. As I turned to go back inside, he called out, "That little noise machine of yours still buzzing over there?" I didn't answer. Just kept walking. He added, louder, "You keep pushing, you're gonna find out what living next to us really feels like." I stopped. My hands were shaking. I turned back and said, "Already found out. 2 weeks ago. Thanks for that." And I went inside. The next night, the whisper tone got knocked over. I'd placed it under a small overhang, weighted it down, secured it with a small strap. It didn't just fall from wind. Someone had touched it. It wasn't broken. Just pushed over like a warning. My wife begged me not to escalate. She was tired. Jonah wasn't sleeping. The tension was bleeding into everything. Meals. Conversations. Silence. But I couldn't let it go. Not yet. So I ordered a motion-activated sprinkler. Legal. Quiet. Discreet. I set it near the speaker, buried the hose in mulch, tested the trigger range. If anyone stepped close after midnight, they'd get soaked. And on Thursday night, someone did. 1:42 a.m. I watched from inside, lights off. A figure walked along the edge of our lawn, toward the whisper tone. The sprinkler kicked on sharp spray, fast. They flinched and stepped back, cursing under their breath. I heard, "Jesus, what the hell?" They ran back across the yard. The speaker on their side didn't turn on that night. The sprinkler incident changed the tone. For 3 nights, there was silence.
No generaterum.
No high-pitched tone.
No chimes.
The whisper tone stayed on, pointed exactly where it always was. It felt like maybe things were over. Maybe that was the end of it. I started to relax a little. I told my wife I thought they finally got the message. She didn't believe it, but she wanted to. Then Saturday morning came. I opened the front door, and there it was, a folded sheet of paper, taped to our mailbox. Not in an envelope, just folded, slightly damp from the morning dew. I opened it and read, "This isn't your neighborhood. You don't make the rules. Take your little toy down, or next time we go further." No name.
No signature.
But it was them. I didn't need proof. It was their handwriting. It had the same tone as that night she stood in the doorway and said I should have bought a better house. I showed it to my wife. She didn't say anything at first. Then she asked, "Are we safe?" That question hit me harder than I expected, because I couldn't say yes. Not really. I didn't report the note. Not yet. I kept it though, added it to the folder with the audio clips. Then I got a new idea. I ordered a second whisper tone. This one I didn't aim at their bedroom. I aimed it lower, toward the side of their living room. Set it to randomize the pulses. Just quiet little disturbances. Not constant. Just enough to make the space feel unsettled. Then I replaced the sprinkler with a motion-sensitive trail cam. Infrared. No flash. If they came back, I'd catch it. Sunday night, around 2:10 a.m., the camera triggered. Someone in a hoodie walked into the edge of our yard, bent toward the whisper tone, then turned and walked back fast, like they'd changed their mind. The photo was blurry, but clear enough. Mrs. Martin. She came alone. I showed my wife. She stared at the picture for a long time. Then she looked at me and said, "What are we doing?" And I didn't have an answer, because it wasn't about the generator anymore. It hadn't been for a while. It was about who gives in first. I hadn't told her about the second speaker, or the randomized setting, or the fact that I kept a spreadsheet now logging nights, sound patterns, their Windows status, anything that seemed relevant. I didn't tell her that sometimes I just stood by the baby monitor, listening to the quiet, waiting for a sign of them retaliating again. This had become more than a noise war. It was a silent fight over respect, over space, over the fact that they dismissed us, dismissed our son, and thought money gave them permission. And I wasn't ready to stop. By midweek, the air between our houses felt different. They stopped going outside during the day. No lawn work, no casual greetings from the porch. Even their dog, this old black lab that used to wander out onto their walkway, was kept inside. And I knew why. They weren't scared.
They were planning something.
Then Thursday morning, a city vehicle showed up. A white SUV with a city emblem on the side and a clipboard-wielding inspector who looked exactly like someone they'd call. He knocked on our door. My wife answered. I stood behind her. "Morning," he said. "Got a complaint about unauthorized outdoor electronic equipment. Says it's emitting high-frequency noise." I stayed calm. It's a white noise generator. Legal. Under the decibel limit. He looked uncomfortable. "Mind if I take a look?" We walked out back. He saw the whisper tone. I explained everything. The solar unit. The manufacturer specs. The range and sound level. He measured it with a meter. "Well below the limit," he admitted. "You're fine. Just thought I'd check." He paused before leaving. It's not the first time this address filed a complaint.
But
nothing here's breaking code. He didn't say more than that. But the way he looked at me, I knew. They were trying to get the city to step in. That night, I moved the second whisper tone slightly. Just enough to avoid suspicion. I also backed up the camera footage and took time-stamped photos of everything, the placement, the angles, the range. Then I did something I hadn't done before. I walked over to their house. Just stood in their driveway. I didn't ring the doorbell. I waited until I saw a face at the window. Then I raised my phone and took a picture of their front light, their house, their windows. Not for blackmail. Not for evidence. Just so they knew. This isn't one-sided anymore. The next day, a letter came. Not from them. From the landlord. A formal notice that they'd received a complaint regarding noise devices and were looking into the issue. It wasn't an eviction notice, but it was a warning. I called him. He sounded tired. "I don't know what you're doing out there," he said, "but these folks have lived in that house for years. They have connections." I said, "My newborn couldn't sleep for 3 nights because of their generator." I asked nicely. They mocked me.
He sighed.
"Just try not to make it worse." That night, Jonah finally slept through the whole night.
No interruptions. No crying.
No strange sounds from next door. But I didn't sleep. I sat in the kitchen with the monitor turned up, just listening to the quiet, and wondering what they'd try next. The next weekend, we had visitors. My wife's sister and her husband drove in from Columbus to meet Jonah. First time holding him. Big moment for our family. We cleaned up the house, set out snacks, tried to act like everything was normal. But I couldn't stop checking the window. It was the first time anyone outside our home had been here since the feud started. I wondered if the Martins would try anything. And they did. Right in the middle of dinner, around 6:30 p.m., a high-pitched whine started from their side yard. Not loud enough to call the police over. Just sharp, constant, piercing if you were already stressed out. I stood up immediately. My wife looked at me, panicked. "What are they doing?" her sister asked. "Nothing," I said. "Just being them." Jonah started crying. The noise wasn't even aimed at his room, but it was enough. I went outside. I didn't knock. I didn't say a word. I stood in the middle of our yard and stared at the speaker they'd set up. It was mounted on a tripod now, hidden behind a bush. Barely visible, but definitely there. After about a minute, their window creaked open. Mrs. Martin's voice floated out. "Hope your guests enjoy the show." I didn't answer. I just pulled out my phone, hit record, and filmed the speaker for a full minute. I made sure her voice was captured. She didn't say anything else. The window closed again. That night, I filed a formal noise complaint with the city. I attached the video. I included the note they left on our mailbox. I sent in everything. They wanted this to be official? Fine. By Tuesday, I got a response. Someone from the city's neighborhood relations office called. Calm, professional. Said they were going to mediate between both parties. They'd be reaching out to the Martins too. The city wasn't taking sides. But now they were involved. I thought maybe that would calm things down. But instead, they doubled down. Thursday morning, I found dead grass in a perfect rectangle around the Whispertones tripod. Not regular dry patches. Chemical burned. Brown. Almost white in the center. They'd sprayed something on our lawn. Right where the Whispertone sat. And just like that, it wasn't about noise anymore. It was property damage. It was trespassing. It was war. I reported it. Took photos. Filed a police report. Not because I thought they'd be arrested, but because I needed it on record. That same day, I ordered 2 motion lights, a second camera, and a waterproof lockbox for the Whispertone. And I moved the speaker again closer to their house. Closer to their window. Still within my property line. Still legal. But undeniable. Friday night, something shifted. I was in the living room holding Jonah while my wife finally got a shower. The monitor lights blinked low. White noise playing softly in his room. For once, everything was quiet. Until it wasn't. Around 1:20 a.m., the Whispertone shut off. I checked the settings. Still powered. Still connected. Nothing should have turned it off. I went out the back door and found it. Gone. The tripod, the speaker, the small lockbox, it was all gone. Not knocked over. Removed. I scanned the yard. Motion lights hadn't triggered. No new footage on the camera. They took it. They came onto my property and took it. I stood there in the cold, staring at the spot where it had been, my heart pounding in my ears. And I realized something I hadn't admitted until then. This wasn't a standoff anymore. It was a trap. They were pulling me into something bigger than sound. They wanted me angry. They wanted me reckless. I didn't sleep. I didn't even try. At 8 a.m., I filed a theft report. The police took it seriously, but I could tell they weren't hopeful. No footage, no witnesses, no serial number logged. I gave them everything I had. That afternoon, the Martins threw a barbecue.
Just a few people.
Nothing big. Some lawn chairs, a cooler, cheap music from a Bluetooth speaker. I watched them from inside my kitchen, one hand on the baby monitor. Mr. Martin stood at the edge of their driveway holding a drink, laughing with someone. Then he turned just slightly and looked at my house. Just 1 second. Not even a full stare. But I knew. He had the speaker. He wanted me to know he took it. And he wanted to see what I'd do next. I didn't confront them. Not that day. Instead, I went back online and ordered something else. Not a noise device. Not a sprinkler. This time it was a light. A high-beam spotlight. Legal.
Solar-powered.
Motion-activated. 4,000 lumens. Designed for farms and large properties. I mounted it on the back of our house, angled directly at their bedroom window. It only came on if someone walked near the property line. So they stopped walking near the property line. But they also stopped going outside after dark at all. A few days later, an unmarked envelope arrived in our mailbox. No return address. Just one sentence written on printer paper. Don't forget who started this. My wife read it, then handed it back without a word. I stood there for a long time, just looking at it. And I couldn't shake this thought. Maybe I did start it. Maybe when I asked them to turn down the generator that night, I triggered something in them, some buried resentment or pride. Maybe they'd been waiting years for someone to give them a reason to unleash it. Or maybe it was always going to be this way. Maybe it never had anything to do with the noise. I still don't know if they ever planned to stop, or if they were just waiting for me to break first. But some nights, when the baby's finally asleep and the house is dead quiet, I catch myself listening, not for sound, but for the silence that came after. And I honestly can't tell if I won or if I just became exact.